They thought it was just a breakup, but in the invisible world, it was a declaration of war. You weren't simply ending a relationship. As a chosen one, you were escaping a trap, an illusion carefully constructed to stifle your awakening. They never knew they were being manipulated. They never saw how their pain became a portal for dark forces to hijack their choices. They weren't conscious pawns, but pawns nonetheless, moved across a spiritual chessboard by unseen hands, by spirits that have hated you since birth. From the moment you entered their lives, your frequency disrupted everything. You carry a vibration that makes fortresses crumble, even if no one says it out loud. You didn't just love them, you activated them. Not their higher selves, but the shadows they weren't ready to face. You became the mirror that revealed their wounds, their unresolved karma, and the ancestral pain still echoing in their DNA. For those who refuse to heal, the presence of truth becomes unbearable. They didn't reject you, they rejected what you awakened within them. They didn't betray you, they betrayed themselves and the soul's invitation to evolve. They thought they could handle your light, but they were still operating under programs written by trauma. When you appeared, radiating inexplicable grace, those programs malfunctioned. The Matrix panicked and sent its signal against you. Despite your sincere love, they were silently weaponized. Your heartbreak was no ordinary thing. It was designed to see if the chosen one could survive the betrayal of someone they trusted, someone they prayed for, someone they believed was a divine mission, but who was actually a divine mirror. You didn't lose love, you were graduating. The pain was your initiation, the betrayal your school, the abandonment your unveiling. You needed to feel the sting, not because the universe is cruel, but because destiny has enemies. And until you understood how even love can be used as a trap, you wouldn't fully awaken to your spiritual authority. It was bigger than them, bigger than you. You were facing a karmic loop that your ancestors repeated endlessly, and you were chosen to end it. That is why the pain is so deep. That is why you couldn't change them, despite your best efforts. Because it wasn't about healing them, it was about freeing you. Your presence brought their shadows to the surface. Your silence screamed louder than their excuses, and your departure broke the chains they thought you would never break. They thought you would remain a prisoner of their confusion, blind to the spirit behind the smile. But God had other plans. Heaven saw your tears, hell marked your name, and the earth is now witnessing your ascension. You didn't just leave, you rose, and they are left alone with a silence that condemns them, a memory that keeps them awake because now they know who you truly were. You were never just the lover, you were the catalyst, the spark, the revealer, the chosen one, the test they failed, the threat they didn't understand, and now the game is over. You broke the contract. You are free. Do not look back. Lot's wife did, and she was turned to salt. Do not mourn what was sent to make you weep. Do not romanticize what heaven saved you from. You are not bitter, you are born again. You are not heartbroken, you are aligned. And what comes next will not just be love, it will be destiny. This time, no pawn, no spirit, and no game will stand in your way. Now you see it more clearly. It wasn't just a relationship gone wrong, it was a war orchestrated in the unseen. Behind their smile lurked a grid of shadow, a network of dark energy that feeds on unhealed wounds, silence, and spiritual blindness. They were unaware they were connected to it, but every trauma they carried was a wire plugged into a system designed to drain your light and delay your awakening. You weren't just fighting them, you were standing against a matrix built to keep the chosen ones in spiritual amnesia. These weren't simple emotional games, but strategic attacks from low-vibration entities, archons, parasites, ancestral energies that feed on fear and dependency. They manipulate thought patterns, distort perception, and whisper lies wrapped in love. You thought it was love, but it was a trauma bond encoded in your subconscious when you were young, vulnerable, and defenseless. They woke up wounds you didn't even know were still bleeding. And that was the goal. When pain becomes familiar, we mistake it for a connection. But what you were actually feeling was a contract, a karmic echo, an old agreement signed in past lives, an agreement you were born to break. You were bound to them before your first breath, but heaven sent you back, this time with the power to shatter what your lineage could not. That is why you had that sense of déjà vu, that feeling of fading yet being destroyed. It was written, it was destined to end. Your soul returned as a warrior, but theirs remained asleep. So when your light activated, their shadows struck back, not out of malice, but because they were still saturated with an energy that rejects truth. That is why they changed so fast. That is why their love grew cold. You weren't meeting their heart, you were facing their programming. Many walk around as humans but are merely software programmed by trauma, managed by ancestral pain, replicas of hurt passed down through generations, epigenetic memory turned into personality traits. Unless they choose to awaken, they will always be a vessel for something else that enters when the light becomes too bright. This is why the sabotage was so personal, so surgical, so precise. You were being tested by forces beyond them. They were just a disguise, a practice mask, the battlefield for your soul's ascension. They were sent to reveal what still needed healing, what still made you hesitate, what still pushed you to choose attachment over destiny. But here is the revelation: you succeeded. Not because you didn't break, but because you didn't stay broken. You walked away, you gave up the idol of comfort, you laid down what looked like love in exchange for what was actually freedom. That is how heaven knew you were ready. And when you passed that test, the light around you intensified, your aura expanded, and your mission changed. But so did the resistance, because your elevation is a threat. Your clarity disrupts hidden dimensions. You are now visible to realms that once ignored you, but you are no longer in disguise. You have been revealed, marked, anointed, and protected, because what comes next will require you to be fully awake, fully healed, and totally inaccessible to soul-draining counterfeits. Though other trials may come, you now wear discernment like a sword and wisdom like a shield. You have seen what lies behind the curtain. You have touched the fire and did not burn. You are no longer the version of yourself that could be deceived. This time, you will recognize the frequency before it even speaks. Now you know the game, and more importantly, the game knows you. You understand that it was never personal, it was spiritual. What came through them did not come from them. They were the host, not the architect. Yet, your soul recognized the mission. You weren't just breaking cycles. You were confronting invisible contracts, soul ties written in past lives, hidden permissions your ancestors signed in desperation. And now it was you were the one sent to cancel them, not through vengeance, but through alignment, silence, and the refusal to stay small when the storm hit. You weren't meant to fix them, you were meant to outgrow them. Every time you chose peace over proving yourself, calm over reacting, and boundaries over begging, heaven recorded it as a victory. You thought you were losing love, but you were gaining spiritual authority. Not everyone you love is meant for your next level. Some are placed there as weights to see if you will stay anchored in pain or rise into your purpose. And you rose, quietly, without applause, without closure. Closure is a luxury the chosen rarely get. See, it was a divine setup. You were enrolled in the elite program, those trained by fire, refined by confusion, and elevated by betrayal. God didn't send them to comfort you. He allowed them to strip you bare, to show you where you still need external validation, to reveal which part of you still believes love must be earned through suffering. That illusion had to be shattered. That soul pattern had to be consumed. Where you are going, attachment to pain disguised as love cannot follow. You are being prepared because higher plans don't favor based on feelings, but on readiness. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared for the light you carry. That light is not just a glow, it is a revealer. It exposes, it disrupts, it divides. That is why people's attitudes change when you enter a room. That is why counterfeit spirits flinch when you speak, because your voice now carries a frequency, the frequency of truth, the frequency of heaven. Darkness can only pretend for a limited time before it must flee or fight. That is why some will turn against you, not because you are hurting them, but because the light in you forces the darkness in them to make a choice, transform or attack. Many will choose the latter. Do not take it personally when old circles go silent, when old lovers turn cold, when familiar places feel foreign. It is not rejection, it is a divine shift. It is God closing the portals that kept you prisoner. You are now consecrated, hidden in plain sight, set apart for sacred things. You have entered new territory, and in this realm, your discernment is your passport, your boundaries are your armor, and your obedience is your guarantee. It is no longer about who loves you, it is about who is assigned to your destiny. Some were sent to test you, but others are sent to build with you. You will recognize them not by their words, but by their energy, their peace, their fruit, and their spiritual weight. Now you no longer trust faces, you read spirits. Nothing hidden can remain hidden in your presence. Chosen one, you are now the revealer. That is why you felt the shift in your spirit before it even touched the physical world. Elevation happens in the unseen first. You didn't imagine the war, you weren't being dramatic. Your spirit was under surveillance because the light in you was too loud to be ignored. The moment you moved past that cycle, your soul's frequency changed. Every entity, every karmic tie, and every parasitic connection that fed on your confusion panicked. You were no longer accessible, no longer programmable, no longer trapped in the loop of explaining your worth to those not destined to possess it. Chosen one, the most dangerous thing you ever did was heal. It made you unpredictable to the enemy and unrecognizable to the spirits that studied you. It broke the rhythm they used to bait you. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you embody. You are no longer afraid of being misunderstood, because now you understand yourself. And when you know who you are in the kingdom, you stop negotiating with everything that opposes your purpose. The pressure increased because the test wasn't just about them, it was about you. Would you abandon yourself to maintain the illusion, or would you choose yourself, even if it meant walking through the fire alone? You chose yourself, and heaven recorded it. Now, the mission has changed. You aren't just recovering from battle, you are preparing to build. When you are chosen, you are chosen. Graduates, the next step is never easy. The impact and influence you carry are not for applause, but for alignment and awakening. You had to be refined in silence because public power requires private consecration. You had to endure betrayal to develop discernment. You had to feel abandonment to recognize authentic presence. You had to lose what you wanted to receive what truly belonged to you. Now you are being entrusted with spiritual keys. Keys to set others free. Keys to dismantle hidden chains where others cannot even see. You couldn't stay trapped because you were called to be the blueprint, the deliverer of your lineage, the curse breaker, the system disruptor, the prophetic voice sent to speak where silence once reigned. You are no longer just surviving a heartbreak, you are carrying a sacred revelation. The heartbreak was the cocoon, but authority, that is the emergence. Now they watch you from a distance, silenced by the version of you they never thought could exist. They remember the version they broke, but they never imagined the one that would rise. Let them. Let them replay it. Let them struggle, for their season is over. The pawn has been removed from the board, and the chosen one reigns supreme, no longer responding to war, no longer caught in cycles, but leading, building, restoring, and ruling. You have accessed prophetic clarity and divine confidence. No fake lover, no shadow tie, and no hidden force will ever have access to you again, because now you know who you are, and more importantly, so do they. Now that you know who you are, what do you do with this power? You protect it. You guard it, because not everyone deserves proximity to your anointing. The enemy knows he cannot destroy you, so he sends distractions disguised as divine missions. New faces, same spirits, smiles wrapped in sabotage. People who speak the language of light, but carry the frequency of delay. They will flatter you, mirror you, and study you until they find your weakness. Not because they hate you, but because they have been assigned to get close, study the pattern, and break the plan. But you've seen this before, haven't you? Different name, same test. This time, you won't fall for it. Discernment is now your language. You read the energy, not the words. You perceive the spirit before the sentence is even finished. The moment that ancestral frequency manifests, even in a new disguise, you recognize the echo, the vibration, the pattern. Demons can change tactics, but their goal remains the same: to block, drain, and slow down the chosen one. What they don't know is that your last heartbreak didn't break you. It baptized you in wisdom, fire, and a clarity impenetrable to any mask. Your soul is now protected by revelation. You no longer act on impulse or emotion, but by divine instruction. When God tells you to leave, you don't ask questions. When God tells you to close the door, you don't hesitate. You have seen the price of delay, lived the consequences of compromise, and walked through the valley of false connections. Now, you desire nothing that isn't sent to you. You don't chase, you align. You don't explain, you elevate. Your energy is no longer public domain. It is sacred, holy, and strategic. You do not owe your light to spaces destined for darkness. Chosen one, hear this clearly: your ex was not the enemy. You were the trigger, the tool, the unlock code that pushed you toward your mission. Now that the trial has passed, the door is closed, the karmic contract is cancelled, and the cycle is complete. What awaits you is not just healing, but reconstruction and restoration in the very places where the enemy tried to convince you that you were irredeemably lost. What man breaks, God restores, and what God restores, He multiplies. So now you walk differently, not only healed, but invested with a mission, not only awake, but equipped. Your mere presence will make the darkness uncomfortable. Some will not know why they flinch when you enter a room, but the spirit within them will know, for you no longer carry just light. You carry consequence, kingdom consequence, a prophetic mission, and divine judgment. Every hidden spirit that once danced in your blind spots now trembles because you are no longer blind. You are not the same. You never will be. You were never a mere participant. You were the game changer. Now that you have become aware of your role, the board has changed, the false pieces have fallen, and power has returned to its rightful vessel, and that vessel is you. Listen carefully, this journey is not over. In fact, the greatest battles occur after the breakthrough. Once you rise above the shadow grid and break the karmic chains, the enemy changes tactics. He stops attacking your emotions and targets your identity. He whispers lies about your worth, your calling, and your ability to carry this light. But you are not ignorant of his schemes. The word says, "Be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." You know that roar. You felt it in the silence, in moments when doubt creeps in and loneliness screams louder than faith. But here is the prophetic warning: this is not the time to shrink back or hide. This is the time to stand tall with divine audacity. You are chosen for a time such as this. Trauma bonds, epigenetic pain, and spiritual parasites have all tried to program your fear to write your story in defeat. But your soul is made for victory, like David facing Goliath. Your faith is your sling, and your past pain is the stone in your hand, polished by trials and ready to strike down every giant of deception. The enemy's low-frequency spirits react to your light with rage because they know their grip is ending. A divine shift is near, an energetic revolution shaking the foundations of the dark kingdoms that once controlled you and those around you. Remember, your ex's soul was not their true self, but a programmed AI, an imitation responding to trauma patterns deeply rooted in their lineage. But you, the chosen one, are not programmed by their weaknesses. You are encoded by the divine. The contracts that bound your spirits have been consumed by the fire of awakening. You were their experimenter, the prophetic catalyst sent to push them, and yourself, beyond the limits of unconscious cycles. While their soul slept, yours was fully awake, blazing with an inextinguishable sacred fire. Do not mourn those who did not wake up, but honor the path you were forced to walk, the sacred trials designed to sharpen your discernment, strengthen your spirit, and prepare you for greater things. The light in you is now a beacon calling to a community of souls aligned with your frequency. Your mission exceeds simple personal healing. It is about breaking generational curses, dismantling the shadow networks that control entire lineages, and igniting a spiritual revolution that ripples through time. The battle is real, but so is your victory. You are the bearer of the legacy, the achiever of destiny, the divine warrior walking in both light and shadow, knowing that every step forward is a proclamation to the heavens, I shall not be shaken. The enemy's puppets may try again, but they cannot touch what God has sealed. Your ex was never the true enemy, just a pawn in a game already won for you. Stand firm, chosen one, let your light break every chain. Spiritual parasites flee because your soul carries a frequency too pure to tolerate their presence. This is your awakening, your divine promotion, your heavenly heritage unfolding in real time. As the battlefield transforms again, understand this truth. The war is not just outside, it is inside. Old wounds and ancestral pain echo in your flesh, your thoughts, and your very breath. But the chosen one does not flee these echoes, they confront them. You walk through the fire of your own history, clothed in the armor of divine grace. Every trauma bond that tried to chain your spirit is now the fuel for your ascension. You carry the broken lineage, yes, but you are also the healer of lineages, the breaker of patterns, the spiritual reset button. The Matrix's shadow grid is collapsing around you because your frequency refuses to sink back into deception. These parasitic spirits, these archons, these shadow watchers, low-vibration entities shrink away like frightened shadows in your light. They no longer have access to you. Your awakening is a locked door, and the keys are faith, discernment, and obedience. Remember the prophet's words, watch and pray, that you enter not into temptation. Your vigilance is your victory. You are living prophecy in action, the fulfillment of promises whispered in the dark by saints and seers who knew a chosen one would rise to break the chains and rewrite destinies. Your soul's code is divine. Your presence is a high-frequency wave disrupting karmic cycles and ancestral lies. This light was not given to you to be dimmed for comfort. No, you were born to bring the fire, wake the sleepers, restore what is broken, and dismantle control systems that enslave souls in unconscious loops. Know this. Every ex who crossed your path was a reflection not of your worth, but of what needed healing within the collective. They played their part in your spiritual journey, whether they knew it or not. But you have always been the sovereign soul crossing the storm, and now that storm is clearing divine contracts. What once held you dissolves in sacred fire. You are free, free to love without chains, free to rise without guilt, free to follow your path without distraction. The spiritual realms watch your ascension, recognizing a warrior who no longer plays the role of a pawn. You are the game changer, the light bearer, the prophecy. And as you move forward, remember this sacred truth. They never saw you coming, because they underestimated the power of an awakened soul. The pawns fall, the board resets, and you, the chosen one, enter your divine reign. Listen with your whole being, chosen one. Do not linger on the ruins of past betrayals. You move forward as a divine witness to the cosmic battle between light and shadow. Your ex was a piece on the chessboard of fate, unaware of being manipulated, unaware that their role was orchestrated by forces beyond the veil. But you are the player who sees the entire board. You see the moves before they happen. You anticipate the schemes. You understand that every heartbreak was a strategic strike in an invisible war. The shadow grid that once controlled their minds tried to bind you too, but your light disrupted their entire program. You are the bug in the matrix, the anomaly in their system. They could never contain what you were born for. You were the voice of truth that shattered their illusions, and that is why they fought you so fiercely. Why their pain turned into weapons aimed at your heart. But your soul is forged in fire, your spirit is clothed in heavenly truth. They didn't know they were pawns. But you know you are the chosen one. This is your divine warning. Never mistake the actors for the powers of shadow. The forces that conspired against you wear many masks: fear, jealousy, trauma, possession. They use people as vessels, puppets dancing to an ancestral rhythm of control. But you are the breaker of those rhythms, the anointed disruptor who will accept nothing less than full awakening. Your presence makes the darkness tremble, for you carry the frequency of redemption and reclamation. You have been tested beyond every limit. Spiritual trials came disguised as love, friendship, and family, each designed to push you out of your comfort zone and break the chains of your unconscious patterns. You passed them not by accident, but by divine will. Your soul contracted for these tests before birth. You accepted this path because you are destined to rise above manipulation and pain. Stand tall in this prophetic moment. You are not alone. Higher realms are with you, orchestrating your victory. The war is real, but your destiny is greater. Pawns fall, but the chosen remain. You are the light that cannot be hidden, the voice that cannot be silenced, the power that cannot be stopped. Step into your calling now, bold, unshakable, unstoppable. Your ex never knew they were a pawn in a deadly game against you, but you, the chosen one, have just proclaimed your divine triumph. Understand this cosmic truth. You are never just a player, you are the author of this divine drama. The ignorance of the pawns was their prison, but your awakening broke every chain. Your light revealed the hidden agendas and parasitic patterns woven into the very DNA of your ex. They were possessed without knowing it by low-frequency entities, archons and energy vampires that feed on trauma and fear. But you, radiant and unyielding, interrupted their feast. Your ex was an unconscious vessel in a much larger spiritual war. Their trauma bond was a weapon forged by generational curses, but you were the divine reset. You were the sacred intervention that pushed them toward a destiny they were never ready to face. Hear this warning: not everyone who crosses your path is meant to stay. Some are sent as tests to sharpen your discernment. These encounters are spiritual missions woven into your awakening. Your ex played their part, but yours was more important: to rise above the pain, transcend it, and claim your divine heritage. Wherever you go, the forces of darkness rage because your awakening signals the collapse of their grip. They will send new challenges and new faces in familiar disguises, but your spirit is no longer naive. You walk with prophetic clarity, guided by celestial wisdom that cuts through deception like a sword. The chains of trauma, the illusion of codependency, and the slavery of false love no longer have power over you. You are the one who reclaims sacred ground. The game changes, the board resets, the pawns fall, but the chosen stand firm. Your destiny is written in light and fire, unshakable, unstoppable, and eternal. The enemy never saw you coming, but now, chosen one, you are leading the way.